Well, it's morning. My brother spent the night, so that was nice. I feel better. I was feeling so terrible last night. I don't feel fantastic, but I feel better. And it's not overly cold, hence the hood not up, but it is overly slippery. That's the problem with this much snow, and now it's starting to slowly get warm. Things are melting slowly, and with that melting comes freezing. It's very annoying. So that's where we are right now. Hi. The plan for today is I do have to make some bread. I'm not sure what kind of bread I'm making, and I'm just going to let you look at Arwen coming with a chicken on her back. That's Houdini riding on Arwen, coming with a chicken on her back. Yeah. What are you going to do about it? There's a chicken on her back. So, you know, Hi, guys. Are you going out? What's going on? I got to come in. Look out, everyone. Arwen. Seriously, I can't get past the goat. Jeez. That's what's going on behind me. Them. And then, of course, Shadowfax. It's always nonsense getting into the barnyard. There is a whack ton of muck right there, so we're going to go around it. And Trunk's been running around, which my brother found that hilarious. He thinks it's chickens. I think there's chickens laying eggs under the barn. I do. All right, fine. We do have to watch it. That was that sound. I think that was an egg song from one of the hens. So I'm going to get Tristan to look under there. What I'm looking for now is eggs. I don't think I'm going to find any because Tristan came in with his pockets full. But it's good to check because it is still technically cold enough for eggs to freeze. So what we're looking for is I don't want them to freeze. I see one underneath there. I don't see any duck eggs, which is okay. Tristan came in with 2 duck eggs, so I don't know that I'm going to find. We only have 4 girls. So, because we only have 4 girls, bring this egg out. This is a silky egg. From that silky, we're not hatching eggs from. Duck, duck, duck. But because we only have 4 girls, well, that's a nice looking egg. We only have 4 girls. So because we only have 4 girls, we are not going to get a ton of eggs every day from the ducks. From the chickens, sure, we get plenty of eggs. But not from the ducks. So, yeah, I'm going to have Tristan look under the barn. Hi. Hi, buddy. This my pony. But there's still... Look. There's still a goat with a chicken. Yeah. Yes, hi, sweet pea. Hi. Yeah. Goat with a chicken. Don't know what to do about that. Anyway. Gonna go look for other eggs. So I have to make bread. And I have to make butter today. Which is not unusual for me. I'm sure you've noticed. I have to make quite a bit of bread. And quite a bit of butter. Again. Right there. I don't know. I don't know. Fluff from the goat. The goat is definitely losing fur. It's warming up. The days are getting longer. Hi, ducks. Excuse me, ducks. You can definitely see where the ducks are tramping this all down. But yeah, bread and butter is the plan for today. I'm wondering if I should do some kind of colored bread because I have from my mom, I have a bunch of food coloring powders that are like beetroot and like different natural ones. So that's a lot of fun. I might use them in my breads because I'm not doing a lot of things with icings right now. Usually I would use them in my icings, but I'm not really doing a bunch of icing stuff. No? No. I don't actually expect the silkies to lay today. I really do not. Because they're them. They're them. Silkies don't lay as well as obviously our layers do. So because the silkies don't lay as well, you can't expect them to lay as often as the other birds do. So silkies, every few days, sometimes, like some of our layers will lay eggs every day and skip a day here and there. So you'll get like 5 eggs a week out of Houdini. The silkies, you're lucky to get 2 to 3 a week. They just don't lay the way the layers do. That's why people tend not to have silkies as layers, because they're crazy and they don't lay that much. Look at that picture. Well, chicken on a goat. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's normal. It's normal around here. So that's mostly why we are not worried about silky eggs every single day. Because you'll get a silky egg here, a silky egg there. But they don't lay the same way everyone else does. Right? They just don't. So we're going to walk back towards there. Just because it's cute. Chicken on a goat. You never know. Chicken on a goat. Yeah. Anyway, so that is what's going on out here. I have to do bread and butter. I'm still deciding on what I'm doing about the bread. I haven't quite, I don't know, something fun and festive for spring, even though it's not really spring. And Tristan's got water, so the ducks are going to get excited. Oh yeah. Duck, duck, duck. So, duck, duck. They're perfectly happy. And I just saw quail moving inside. Yeah, the quail are in the upper part. So, I can see them moving around. Anyway, we're going to go back inside, decide what we're doing about bread, get some butter going after I wash the mixing bowls, because my dad made ebbescuas, which are a Danish, they're kind of like a pancake, but in a ball. They're fantastic. We love them. My dad made those. He's made those since I was a little girl. And now he makes them for my kids. So, I make them too. It's not that I can't make them. I'll show you the recipe he uses one day. But he makes them best. Let's admit that. Let's admit sometimes dads are the way. That's why we love dads. What would we do without dads? Anyway, that is what's going on out here. We're going to go inside, do some stuff. Here's some ducks. And hopefully we will get a few more eggs other than just the one silky egg that is in my pocket. And the eggs that Tristan grabbed this morning. Hopefully we'll get a few more than that. But it's cloudy and gross. And for some reason the wind is picking up. Which is just plain annoying. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to go inside. And hopefully get that bread started once I make a decision on what we're doing. Well, the sun came out. It's looking good. It is melting out here. It's not as warm as I was hoping it would be. It is quite bright still. So, with the sun out, but the temperature falling because it's evening, well, it's making for some slick ice, but at least some melted. So we are getting some melting happening. And that's what's really important. We want some melting. But, woo, you gotta watch this ice. You gotta watch your step here. That's why I'm staring at my feet. You've got to penguin walk, and you've got to watch so you're not gonna wipe out. Because we don't want to die. Anyway, Tristan found a bunch of eggs under the barn. So, you know, that's where they've been hiding. So, we're not, like, we weren't short a lot of eggs. And with the time of year, you never really know. Get this out of the barnyard. Get it out. Take it with me when I go. So, but because of the time of year, you don't really notice, and I'm avoiding the puddle. But because of the time of year, you don't really notice that, you don't really, woo, slippery on the ramp. But you don't really notice that you're missing a few eggs, especially if it's just duck, 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 duck. No eggs down there, okay? Duck, 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 duck. Egg. I can't reach. My arm is too short. But if they only lay a handful, perfect egg. If they only lay a handful of eggs in one spot, you don't really notice. Okay, I don't see any. Thank you, Blue. But it's been a bit of a lazy day. Just looking for... Hi. Bunny. Hi, buddy. You have ice on your mane. Well, stop getting wet. I'm just looking for eggs. I think we don't have to worry about them today because we got a bunch. So there's another one in my pocket. But if they only lay 1 or 2 eggs in weird spots like under the barn, you won't necessarily notice, right? Because not every chicken lays every day, and we have a mix of breeds and not all of them lay every day. So when you're gathering eggs, half of the time you're like, oh, I guess he just didn't lay today. She just didn't lay today. He's don't lay, only she's. So it gets really funny when you suddenly find a stash of eggs that clearly only 1 or 2 birds have been laying. Hi, buddy. Yes, you're a very good turkey. He likes to go for walks with us. So the stash of eggs was clearly only laid by about 2 hens. That was fun. Just got that in the face. But because it was only laid by a couple of hens, you end up in a situation where you just didn't notice you weren't getting those eggs. It's getting chilly. Wow, it's getting chilly. Hopefully some of this melts. So tonight we are going to go inside right away and take a look at the bread I'm making. It is actually going to be fantastic. I've had to do it in 3 groups because I'll show you why when we go inside. But I am walking too deep in the snow. Awesome. But it was a really fun... Hi guys. Any eggs? No? I didn't think you guys would lay today. But it's going to be a really fun bread, and I'll show you how I do it. And I'll show you what it is as soon as we get in there. But it's been rising. The individual doughs, I have 3 doughs that are going to make up this one bread. And they have been rising for the last hour or so. So, because I want to hang out here, because the wind is picking up. Yeah, the wind is definitely picking up. Let's go inside and deal with bread, and then we will also make some butter while that's rising. Because it's actually getting cold out here. It's not supposed to get that cold tonight, but it certainly feels cold. I think it's the wind. Anyway, let's go inside and shape that bread. Well, we're here working on our bread. I have 3 colors of dough. What I did is I made 3 small, like really small, 1 cup of flour doughs. And what I'm doing is I dyed them different colors. Now you can use conventional food dyes, or you can use a more natural food dye, like you might want to use beetroot if you're looking for red, that kind of thing. So that's one of my favorite things to do because, 1, my mom gave me a bunch of dyes, natural ones, and I'm really not making any icing or anything right now, so it's kind of fun to do something with them. But basically what I'm doing is I'm layering the dough, and at one end, at one long end, I am keeping it lined up with the white dough underneath. And then at the other end, I am coming like only to within an inch of the white dough. Because I actually want the white dough to completely encase the color. So that means, except for this edge where I'm going to start rolling, I need a little bit of a border. So then what I'm doing is really pinching, really attaching the doughs together so that they don't come apart when they're rising. So I have a purple, I also have a pink. So I'm doing the exact same thing with the pink. Taking that pink, laying it in, lining it up, and then stretching it out to go on top of that purple dough. So I still have that white border. That's what I'm looking for. It's just that white border. And basically you stretch out your dough as big as you want your loaf. So I want my loaf this wide, so my dough is this wide, or that long. And then again, lots of pushing so that those doughs kind of cement together. And then I'm going to take my hands and basically stretch them as one dough up so that it's wider, but I'm stretching as one dough now, so I'm pulling as one. And then this way, but again, I'm pulling all 3 layers as one layer. It just helps those layers stay together if you do their final little bit of stretching as one. Okay. Now I'm going to roll this up. Go. Just loosen it off of the silicone. Loosen that off. There we go. Pull this up. Pinch those white layers so they are incredibly together, because we don't want this splitting. It's just fun and festive. There's no real reason I'm doing this. Just I want to, and it's spring, or it's supposed to be. If there would stop being that much snow outside, it would feel much more like spring. And then I take it seam side down and I give it a roll so that hopefully it stays more together. Sometimes you only hope for the best, and sometimes they split anyway despite your best efforts. Then I'm going to get a pan, pop that on a pan, let that rise for about an hour, and while we're waiting for it to rise, I'm going to make some butter. But I'm going to get this on a pan, and this is the bowl that everything was in. But then I will come back and make some butter, but first I have to clean all this up and put this on a pan. You don't need to watch me clean everything up. Or maybe you do. That could be fun. Anyway, where's my pan? I lost my pan. My pan's over here. It's okay. Crisis averted. I found my pan. It's got way too many liners on it, so what nonsense is that? Here we go. Put that on the pan. Literally, I'm just going to shove it in the oven. The oven's not turned on. I just want it to stay safe. Because, you know, we have cats and dogs and stuff, so all that kind of good stuff is fun. And then the making butter part is really, really easy. I mean, sometimes people think making butter is like super fancy, but it's literally one of the easiest things you could do. And there's a measuring spoon on the ground. There. Measuring spoon, not on the ground anymore. Alright. Hopefully in here is a, yes. I just need to dry this bowl out. We don't want any water in it. Yes, that's what we're doing right now. Drying this bowl. But my dad had used these this morning, so we had to do some dishes after he left here. We had to do some dishes so we'd have bowls to use. So I need this. I need a whisk attachment. Yeah, the dishes have been running, so I just have to pull stuff out of the dishwasher. Let's dry this off just a little bit. Just a little bit. Pop that in there. Find the guard. And find, why is this so loud? That was loud. I did not need to slam that, but I did. And I'm literally using store-bought cream today, because that's what I've got. So, not everybody has a milking cow right this second, and if they do, maybe they don't have extra cream for you. So sometimes you find yourself using store-bought cream. You do need to use cream. If you're going to make yourself some butter, whoa, I'm splashing. Good for me. But if you're going to make yourself some butter, you absolutely have to make sure that you're using cream, not milk. Milk won't work. Milk does not have the butter fat content. Okay, you need 33 plus percent. You can do it with 33. Any less than that, you can't. So you can't make it with your whole milks or anything like that. You need 33% milk fat or higher, which is your heavy creams, your whipping creams, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to get this started. I'm not going to record that because this gets very, very loud. But it takes a few minutes to completely whip this up and turn it into butter. So I'm going to do that, and we'll come back, check out the finished butter, see how it's doing. And I think I'm just doing salted butter today. I'm not doing anything fancy. So we'll do that. And after we make the butter, we will check on the loaf. But this part you're really not going to watch because it's so loud. And if you really want to watch it, I will link to my butter making playlist in the description. This is boring. This is just literally watching a mixer whip until it turns into whipped cream, and then until the whipped cream separates into butter and buttermilk. It's literally not that interesting. So I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to turn the camera off, and we will come back when this is finished. Well, the loaf has risen, and I am going to press my butter into molds in just a few minutes. But I'm taking an egg wash here and brushing my loaf with egg. And then I'm going to put sesame on it, sesame seeds, not sesame oil. That wouldn't make any sense for this bread. Not that sesame oil doesn't have its place, it's just not in coating this bread. So I'm using an egg wash, nice layer of egg. I'm using a silky egg because I might as well. Then we're going to want to take some sesame seeds, sprinkle them on there. You can leave the sesame seeds off if you don't like them. Whenever somebody says, well, I don't like sesame seeds, just don't put them on. It's not a big deal. Some people don't like a seeded top to their loaves. I happen to. And then, just to make it real pretty, I'm going to take my lame, and sometimes this works out and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm going to score my bread along this side and along this side. And then we're going to pop that in the oven and let it bake for about 25 minutes. Hopefully it turns out beautiful. Because I put a lot of work into this, and sometimes they just don't. Sometimes they go sideways, and that's just the way it is. But we can hope that this one turns out pretty. And after I get it in the oven, I am going to grab the butter I've made, and I will press that into molds so that it can be frozen. Because that's the best way to set butters in the freezer. We'll talk about that in a minute. For now, I'm going to shove this in the oven. Well, while the bread bakes, we're not baking butter. That would not turn out well. But while the bread bakes, we are going to press our butter into these molds. And I am going to get myself a small knife. I like using a butter knife just to scrape the top of it off when you squeeze it up. Like, I really like these silicone molds. The only thing is they spread a lot, so you'll notice that spreads a lot. So you have to go in and press it back into shape. And then when you press it back into shape, I like to take a knife and scrape off that top layer. Right? And press that into the next mold. There we go. But I am going to put a little more butter in the first mold because I don't think we got enough. I think there's still a couple of holes in there. So we're just going to take some butter and jam it in there. And then again, we have to squeeze. So is it efficient? Not necessarily, but I like the silicone molds because everything comes out of them. And they're infinitely reusable. Right? They'll be good for years. Whereas, like, I don't like using metal for butter. And I don't like using any kind of crockery in the freezer because I just don't. I don't like the the cold making things brittle that way. And this will never get brittle. So there's that. I keep thinking there's a hair right here, but I don't think there actually is. No, I don't think so. I think it's just a shadow. Yeah, I think it's just a shadow. Yeah, because it only shows up when it's down there. So if the hair only shows up when it's down in the bowl, it's a shadow. If there's no other way to find the hair, it's not a hair. Because hairs don't disappear. But I'm never surprised if there's a hair, because have you seen the dogs we have? I'm never surprised. I mean, you do the best you can, but who hasn't? Who hasn't gone, hey, how'd a hair get in this? And then you went, ooh, right, I have dogs. It gets everywhere. You do the best you can with what you've got. Like, I'm pretty careful with my butter, but it still wouldn't surprise me. It still would not surprise me. Push, push, push. Get as much of that butter in there as you can. And this is just regular salted butter. I literally, after I washed it, you do have to wash your butter. But after I washed it, literally all I did was put it back in the bowl after I cleaned the bowl. And after I stuck it in the bowl, I put some salt in there and I ran the mixer for a few minutes with the salt in it. That's literally the entirety of what I did. So it's not difficult to make salted butter at all. Some of the compound butters can be more complicated, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with a complicated butter. But just a regular salted butter is really easy. And I like using the mixer to soften it up there anyway, because frankly, once you've been washing it in cold water, it gets pretty stiff, and a stiff butter is harder to push into the mold. So whipping it up with some salt in the mixer softens it a lot. So I like doing that. Just gonna get some more. This one, I think I cut a little too deep when I sliced. And this one is okay, I think. And this one could use a little more because there's a hole in here. But yeah, what is about 1 liter makes about 4 cups of cream for anyone who doesn't do liters. But about 4 cups of cream makes approximately 1.5 cups of butter. And then you also have the buttermilk that you're using, because we don't throw the buttermilk out, we use it in baking and stuff. So it's actually a pretty good deal. There we go. And then we'll just take this last little bit. I'm going to take this last little bit, put it in my butter dish. I might as well, instead of freezing it. Pop this in my butter dish. Here we go. Get a cloth for my hands, man. You get a lot of butter on your hands when you do that, but it's just butter. It's not really a big deal. And then, where did I put the lid? What's on there? And we're gonna pop that in the freezer overnight. And come morning, my butter will be nice and set, and it'll pop right out of those molds. So I'm gonna pop that in here. And then it's ready to either just eat or to be turned into a whipped butter or a compound butter, whatever I need it for. But that was making the butter, and we're just waiting for the bread to come out of the oven. I will, of course, come back and show you what it looks like when it comes out. It's got another 15 minutes baking time, and then I have to let it cool enough to slice, because you shouldn't slice hot bread. Even though we all do it, you really shouldn't. So we'll be back as soon as that bread comes out of the oven and it's cool enough to slice. Well, that is looking nice. It's still a little warm, and I shouldn't cut it yet, but what the heck. So I'm going to be very gentle cutting it, because I should not cut it yet. But I'm going to cut a second slice so that you can see a whole slice. But when you're cutting bread this hot, you got to be careful that you don't collapse it. And it's also incredibly hot. I shouldn't cut it yet. You shouldn't cut bread. Don't cut bread this hot. I am, but don't. That's what it looks like. nice pretty swirl in there. And you can use it just like you use any bread. You can use it for sandwiches, you can use it for toast, you can use it for French toast, which is where this is probably going to end up because I like French toast. Anyway, that is literally it for us tonight. I am going to have a couple of slices of bread and head off to bed because now it's incredibly dark outside. It is getting incredibly late and I have to be up early in the morning. So, with that said, hopefully you'll come back tomorrow and see what's up on the farm then, because tomorrow we are going to be breeding a couple of bunnies. 3, I think. Maybe 4 if Gemini didn't take. So, we'll see. But I think we're breeding 3 bunnies for sure. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to show on camera. You tend to get in trouble when you show that kind of stuff sometimes. So, we'll see a little bit of it maybe, but otherwise, that's what's up tomorrow. We are breeding a couple of Rexes, and we're breeding Tinsley, my lop. The Rexes don't get bred until this time of year because we don't want babies in the dead of winter. Anyway, that's it for us here today. Hopefully you'll join us again tomorrow.